So, welcome everyone to the Play-Based Learning Workshop. It's good to see a good turnout. We're here today to look at play and what it is, but also I'm going to give you an outline of what I'll cover today. And at the end we'll have questions, and I also have a feedback sheet. If you could fill it out for me, that would be great. So to begin with, we're going to look at what play is and why we do it at our school. We're also going to look at the play-based learning early years curriculum, which is relatively new, and also a play continuum that will show you why we play and the importance of play. We'll also cover the skills involved when your child plays, the types of play, and then at the end we'll have some questions. Okay. So to start with, to understand why play is important, I mean, you have children, so you know that your child plays every day, but there's different skills that your child has when they're playing, and through this video you'll see why it's important for them to play. So this video is taken from the IBO, and it's part of the early years program that we have at IICS. As you could see, there are a lot of different skills that children learn through play, and play is beneficial to children's learning and also their development. On the next slide, we're going to look at play and inquiry and why it's really important and how they're connected together. So inquiry in the early years looks at how children learn to play and how they understand the world. So when children are playing, it's their work. Like we go to work every day, and children learn and their work is play. So this is the opportunity for them to learn to discover, they learn to interact with the physical and the social world around them. So if you look at how they inquire, they're learning how to learn through different skills that you saw in the previous video. They're also learning to collaborate with their friends. They're interacting and making friends. They're also learning the social skills behind a lot of what they do each day. And they're also making judgments. So it's important for them to have play and inquiry so that they can process things and learn. So to start with, when children play, I'm going to actually get you to do exactly what they do in the classroom so that you can understand why we use play. So around the different areas, I've put out some things for you to play with. For some of you, there's there's puzzles underneath, there's things here or here, and you can move around the room and just have a look. Explore as a child would, and then at the end I'll ring a bell for 5 minutes. We'll play for 5 minutes and then ring a bell, and then we'll talk about what happened and what you were doing. We have something So around the room there's different things that you can use. There's also different trays with beads and counters.
Yes, I am. Okay.
Oh, I thought about some kind of animal, maybe.
Yeah, my time is half a horse here, or a cow.
Too big, huh?
Yeah, too big.
It's a puzzle on the...
But Damien first.
That's oh my god, I'm really like genius.
I thought you were so cute. It's
I can get everyone just to come back. I know you're enjoying yourselves, but I know you also have to pick up some children, so some of you. And I actually forgot to say, I know some of you, but I haven't met everyone. So my name's Shireen Patasi, and I'm the preschool 3 and 4 teacher here. We also have Natasha Whitty and Michelle Derlick who teach prep. And in the ECC building we also have grade 1, so Miss Monique Sweet is there too. So we share the whole building. So just to get you to think about what you were doing, there were lots of different activities put out for you to play and explore with. Does anyone think, can you think about something that you thought you might have learned as you were playing? So as a child, like what sorts of skills maybe that you had to play with the equipment, or yes, go ahead.
Yeah, it's I played with this game, and it's like enhancing the fine motor skills.
Yes.
Okay, the
Definitely.
pincer grip.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I think it's eye-hand coordination as well. So they lose concentration and the eye-hand coordination.
In the dough area, it looked like the group over there were having lots of fun. Still playing. So, I mean, when you were playing and exploring, I mean, were there any sort of learning outcomes you thought about? I mean, of course, as a child, you don't think of these things. It's my job to help you do that. But as a parent, maybe you can understand that there is different learning through play as well.
I was actually looking at what the other mums were making. So, like from a child's perspective, maybe they were looking at, the different animals that the other kids would be making.
Right.
So from learning from others.
So that's, I mean, it's a skill that as children, they're also learning to do this. Like they learn from each other, but they also motivate each other. So as you can see, when children play, there's lots of different learning outcomes. I mean, just to give you an idea, I mean, no one actually played here because it was more exciting to go to the orange dough and the pincer grippers. But here, a lot of the activities there are based for children to learn about maths, so shapes, counting, and so everything that we do as we play has a learning outcome, which leads us on to the PYP Early Years curriculum. So it's recently come out in September of last year, and at this time we looked, sorry, okay. So when we're thinking about when a child plays, they're applying the skills that you did. They're also expanding their knowledge and their attitude. And so this is connected with the PYP curriculum, which I'm going to just briefly show you about. It has 3 main elements. So early educators got together and they decided that there was a need to have a curriculum especially for early years children, rather than something that they didn't endorse play. They decided that for children to learn, as we all know, and as parents know, children learn best when they play. So when we look at play, we're looking at how there's an overview which covers all the skills that are needed. So children learn through play by developing their social skills, also their thinking skills when they're playing, but also their physical development. So they also decided, the IBO, that in order for teachers to do this, they had to have a written curriculum, a taught curriculum, and as you can see, an assessed curriculum. So when you were playing, of course I cut your time to play off, but for children, they need that time to enhance their learning and their skills. So they also, as I said, learn through play, and it's important for them to have that time so they can revisit what they've learned, consolidate knowledge, maybe test different things as well, and then also to reflect on what they've learned. So with the play overview, they also look at how we teach it. So we're looking at the different skills. At the beginning video, we had the IBO show you about initiating, having children taking turns, all of the social skills and different skills that they learn. And then as the teacher, we also look at how we can observe how children play, because that's very important in finding out exactly what your child's learning, and also for their development to extend their learning. So if we move on, the play continuum, you don't have to read all of it, but I'm going to just quickly show you. I mean, this document is taken from another school, but the main points and main focus is similar to what we're doing as well. So play for preschool looks at how it's child initiated. So when children start school, they often will come to school, and everything they do is, when they're playing, is based on what they like, their interests and different things. Whereas for older children, they can have child initiated play, but they also will do different things with the teacher. And this is when it's teacher directed. But also in preschool, they're learning to collaborate and talk to their friends. They're also learning how it's important to take turns and share. So there's different skills that a child at preschool would have from a child in prep. So in order to just show you the difference, I mean, here in prep, again, preschool, we started with child initiated play, where the child plays and directs their learning most of the time, and that's throughout the year. But for prep, usually at the beginning of the year they're doing these similar things, but then later on they are having different experiences and they're able to reflect what they've learnt with their friends and collaborate. So you can see there's a difference between the two. So that's the play continuum and how that works. And just to let you understand the differences, we have a video again of children and the play-based learning inside and outside the classroom.
Where are these kids from?
So this is the actual preschool class, but within preschool there's 3 different age groups. So you can see the difference between some of the older children and then some of the younger children that are still developing their physical development. So with play, I mean, children are able to initiate and choose things that they want to do during the day. There's also teacher direction. Here it's learning about social skills. He's actually waiting for his turn, which for some children it takes a long time for them to actually understand the process of waiting for a turn. Again, here it's sharing their learning through IT. They've actually learnt an app and they're now actually sharing and consolidating their knowledge. And then here, more of the social skills, saying no to your friend. So different skills again show you how the children play, but also play is fun and it's enjoyable. So we talk about play with the choice of what the child wants to do. Also at the beginning of the video from IBO we talked about appreciating a child's work. So here Alia actually wrote her name and she wanted to display it for the whole middle area building. So it's being proud of their work and everyone else respecting that. So it's all these skills that sometimes as a parent you think, oh, they're just playing, but really there's lots of different skills and attitudes that they're learning. Also, they're learning attributes from the IBO learner profile. So being caring, being a risk taker. And here, as the children get older, you can see that they've actually learned a game and they can actually interact. So it's taken from the beginning of last year to now to actually have the children actually work together as a group and collaborate. And then they've actually learnt that, oh, I can play with my friend, I can show them a game, they can follow me and I can be the leader. So there's all these things that children learn through play that sometimes if they might not have an older brother or sister, they might not learn these skills and that has to be taught. So you can see the development of play actually enhances children's learning. I'll just keep going, sorry. So as I said, there's different interactions during play. Sometimes it's child choice. Here we were learning about the letter I, so we had insects in ice. And so that was the teacher directed part where we talked about it starts with the letter I, this is what I looks like. And then we moved on and it became almost a science experiment because to get the insects out of the ice, the children had to actually take it outside and say, oh, if I wait here, it's never going to melt, it's actually sunny, I'll take it outside. And then so that was the student-directed, student-initiated learning. And then they also looked into grouping the different coloured bugs, and then it became a counting game as well. So this one lesson took most of the morning, but you can see that student and teacher directed learning was happening. And then again, our unit at the moment is curiosity about the world. So to tie and connect with PYP, the children went out on a field trip and then came back and they observed the Miramar Sinan Bridge and then came back and they actually built different things from what they saw. Of course, we wanted to show you, but they all fell down. But there are photos. So sometimes children then understand from that part is that they have to think about materials and how to plan again what they've done and change it. So it's all through play. And here we're going to look at a video just to think about the third element that I've remembered now. It's the environment and how important it is in the setup of play and how it actually helps children to learn as well. So as you look at this video, you'll see this is Hisar campus, so the environment is different from ours. They have a smaller campus, and so they're not, again, a different way of having the space, but children are still doing the same things. We are learning through play. The social skills they're initiating. They're also learning to use different materials as well. And their space is smaller than ours, so it's a different setup. So as you can see, the organisation of the space is very important. Also the selection of the materials, as you saw here, I put out different materials, but there were different learning outcomes that were coming through with all the things that were out. But it's also important to adapt the learning environment, because sometimes children will use a space for a small amount of time. I mean, you probably notice at home, maybe Johnny will play with the trucks for 5 days and then he won't go near them for a month because he's very interested, and at this stage they're very egocentric. Some of them, they want to do what they want, so they won't move on to something new. And so it's important to adapt the environment as well. So sometimes you'll see when you come in, the furniture's moved around and it's in a different place. Or sometimes you'll come in and there's a new thing. And so it's to get the children to appreciate what they've got, as well as to also look at them, the wonder of learning. So getting them to look at a new space in a different way. I mean, these things you can do at home as well, depending on the time, but it allows your child to have different opportunities to play, and the space and environment is important in the setup, and then it allows them to choose different materials to play with. So it could be, as you see, we don't actually have tables in our room because children prefer to, at this age group, prefer to use the podiums or sit on a cushion, or we have mats so that they can move around quite freely, whereas if you reach to maybe the prep rooms in grade 1, their environment is a little bit different, but the space is used so to help the children enhance their learning as well. And again, we're very lucky here because we have the outside environment, so they have lots of time to spend time with nature. They can also use the playground for physical development, and we also have the indoor space. So it's a really good environment for them because they can choose, particularly for like the preschool children. When they first come, they don't want to go out there because it's the big wide world, there's big children, there's more people out there, so they prefer here. But then as they get more confident, they want to be all over, outside, inside, and in the middle area. And if they're in the middle area, they're actually working with older children, so it's helping them to gain confidence as well. And it's also good for the older children to show younger children how to play and incorporate the social skills as well. So we looked briefly at the resources and materials. We talked about how they need to be attractive, also age appropriate, like the materials I set out for you today would be very different from maybe something that Miss Whitty or Miss Derlick would set up, because we'd want to extend the learning. So maybe they would use the dough to make letters, to write their name, to do spelling. So it's an extension of what we do here, but next door it's also looking at age-appropriate activities for them too. And again, resources don't always have to be used the way you think they have to be used. Like the Lego here, they've used to make for letters and writing. So as I said before, with the PYP curriculum, it was really important to have the assessed curriculum. So observations are part of what the teacher does, so that they can see how much learning the child has done, where they need help, whether the child needs extra help with social skills. So it's important as part of the curriculum that we're assessing that we also observe your child. So sometimes it might look like we're just walking around not doing anything, but we're actually observing children to see what it is that we're going to teach next to them, because sometimes for each child it's very different how they play, but it's also very different how they learn as well. So it's important that the teacher observes each child individually to help them. And then finally, with the types of play, I'm sure most of you as parents already know or have seen some of these different types of play. Children play sometimes alone, sometimes with a group, sometimes they don't interact, and it's all very normal. I know some parents worry if your child is younger and they're like, oh, she doesn't play with anyone, she will just sit and watch. But this is all part of the process of learning how to develop their skills, but it's also getting them to understand they're actually observing for a reason. So if your child's playing alone, it's called solitary play, but they're actually connecting things that they've seen within maybe the room, the environment, maybe the relationships with other children. They're watching, oh look, they're playing together, they talk. So everything a child is doing through play enables them to learn more. So there's also, we call it spectator play, where a child, as you saw in the video, there was one girl, as they were playing with the iPads, there were two boys. One girl just watched, she wasn't actually participating, she didn't talk to them, but she was watching everything they were doing. So possibly the next step for her would be she would actually go and maybe choose that app to play next time, or she would ask them, oh, I don't know how to cut his hair, because it was, I think, Tokaboka hairdresser. So the play that children use enables them to learn in different ways, and in the ways that they actually work together, like parallel, side by side. If they're in a partnership, they're beginning to talk to each other. And then what most parents really like to see is cooperative play, where they're actually learnt the games, they're actually showing their friends, and they're actually leading different games. Of course, cooperative play is a big step, and it takes time for children to play, and that's why as teachers we encourage play so that we can get to the point where children are able to join a group easily and work with their friends, but also to help them with their learning. So are there any questions?
Of course, in the during the playing, they have an argument with each other. And do you let them to solve their problem by themselves, or do you differ? If you say to them, okay, the teacher do anything about the argument, because of course the boys is more stronger than girls, and maybe they hit the girls, but I just want to know what the teacher do during this position.
So, I mean, when children argue, I mean, it happens sometimes throughout the day, of course. I mean, the first thing I ask them to do, usually if it's physical, we tell them to stop. But then we also encourage them to actually talk to each other. So I say to them, because at preschool age it's very hard, they all want to tell me their story first. So I say, it's your turn, you tell me what happened, and then I ask the other child, you tell me what happened. And then usually the argument ends up that somebody took somebody's toy, so someone might have hit somebody. So we talk about the actual problem. It's not, they were trying to solve it, but they didn't realize you don't hit each other. You actually have to talk your problem through. So this, I mean, that's why we talked about the social skills. It helps the children to actually be able to be part of that, to get them to talk to each other. Of course, sometimes because they're young, they might not even want to talk to their friend. They might, and so it's telling them, when you're ready, come back and tell me, and then I'll help you to go and talk to your friend, and then we'll sort it out in terms of actually getting them to solve it. But I mean, it takes lots of steps, and for some children, they're able to do it by themselves, and others, they actually need the support of the teacher. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Just because I always try to tell my daughter that it's your problem and you should solve it by yourself. But sometimes in the physical position that it's happening, I have to interfere, and I want to know that at the school also it happened that teacher has to interfere.
We also have some phrases that we say to them. So because of the age group that we have phrases for children to say stop, and the hand signals if they aren't able to speak English, we tell them just say this, and everyone's learnt that means stop, please don't do that. And they can also tell the teacher, but we also, for the children who hit, they have to understand the word sorry, but not to always just say sorry, because some children will just go around going, sorry, sorry, because they know. And we don't want that. We try to get them to understand. You have to, when you're ready to come and talk to your friend and say the special, well, not the special word, but say the word, then that is needed because you hurt your friend. They actually have to have the understanding it comes from them. Because if I say to them, say sorry now, they will always go, sorry, and then they walk off. And it's the understanding of the actual action that they took. Yeah. Are there any other questions? Well, thank you for coming. It was great to see a great turnout. I hope that was helpful for you to understand why we use play and also how it's connected to the curriculum. I do have a evaluation sheet for you. I know some of you have to rush off. It's just at the door, and there's some pens at the table if you could fill it out. And I also have different types of play sheet. We talked about how children play alone or with their friends. There's some ideas here for you. So to do with like drama, getting them to explore materials that might be helpful when you're at home. So please help yourself. It's on the other side of the door. And thank you for coming.